Hi, everyone there in American Warrior Radio Land. Thank you for joining us for another exciting episode. We have Dr. Scott Fairchild with us again today. Some of you longtime listeners would recognize him. He had a long-running episode called Heal the Warrior, Heal the Country. Dr. Scott Fairchild, thanks, Doc, for being with us.
Hey, it's so great to be back and give you some updates on some of this new stuff we have that has been so beneficial for our veterans and their families.
We have a couple hot topics that you introduced some time ago. The ETMS, tell us about that, what it's designed to do, and what kind of success you've seen with your patients.
The ETMS is a fantastic program. The psychiatrists came out with that transmagnetic stimulation a while ago. It has been targeted by using EEGs, where they take and measure the electronics in your brain, and they look at the places.
Is that a real messy thing where they put oil and grease in the electrodes?
They got a new hat that they just put on like a football cap. It measures it in 10 minutes. You close your eyes for 10 minutes. You get a report back. You actually get a report back from them. They send the data out to California. An expert team takes a look at it, analyzes it, sends it to a doctor in Indiana who contacts you and gives you feedback on your delta, theta, alpha, and beta waves. Mine had improved considerably from the hyperbaric oxygen treatment I had, but I still had a little delta in there. That yellow part you see there is delta, which means I still have a little brain fog because delta is your sleep wave, and you really shouldn't have that when you're walking around awake. So my goal was to reduce that delta, and I'm in session number 17, and it's already been reduced considerably, as well as it has improved my sleep.
But this must cost a lot of money, Doc.
Well, for the average individual, it costs about $20,000. And so, fortunately, the president of the company, ETMS, multimillionaire, doesn't need to do any of this for himself, but he wants to help veterans, police officers, and firefighters. And so he's gone out and put it together. He has these clinics in 23 states.
Do we have one here in Florida?
And we fought and got one here in Melbourne, Florida, right in Melbourne Beach.
Wow.
And so we're so excited to have it here. I've already referred about 30 individuals, 30 veterans with PTSD.
But they must have money. You just said it's like 20 grand.
He was able to convince the Florida legislature to give him a $10 million grant. And they're in the process of working on their next $10 million grant.
So this treatment, which you'll explain what it does in a moment, is free if you qualify.
It is free to veterans, police officers, and firefighters at the 7 facilities that he has in Florida. A couple in Miami, a couple in Orlando, but the important thing is we have one right on Melbourne Beach, just between the Pineda and O'Galley, on the beach side, and they are providing services as we speak.
Good grief. So what does it cure? What does it help? Maybe not cure. Cure is the wrong word. What does it help reduce?
We've seen help with sleep, with focusing, with concentration, with irritability, with anger, with many of the symptoms that one would have if you have PTSD. And we've been really impressed by the fact that this method has been used around the country. And that's why the Florida State Legislature and other legislatures have been so willing to support it, because you've got the data.
It actually works.
It actually works. And so they provide a number of psychological tests at the beginning of the therapy. They also do a session 0 where they do your QEEG and find out where the communication problems are.
So you're setting a baseline.
You have a baseline with these 8 separate tests. And then I'll jump to the conclusion. You look at the end, the higher the scores, the worse off you are. And all of the scores, with the exception of one small one, drop. All of the scores drop, and they don't drop just a little bit. They drop 50, 60%, which is huge. There's been a study in Texas with 51 severe PTSD veterans, and what's happened with them is they were diagnosed with severe PTSD, and by the end of the 20 sessions, they no longer met the criteria for the PTSD diagnosis. So they've come a long way, and you can see it on their QEEGs right here. You can see that you have high beta. That's your anxiety level. And that high beta increases with PTSD. And by the end, it just dissipates after the treatment. So it's very important to see that.
Well, and thanks to our producer, John Lopez with Real Kingdom Media. He's been working with the AWR, American Warrior Radio, for many years now. He's going to share some of this, whatever he can snap photos of and post. You'll get to see the nuts and bolts that Doc is talking about. You mentioned something that, number one, it's free. Number two, it's there to treat severe symptoms of PTSD
Correct.
and trauma events and depression,
Correct.
all those,
And sleep.
and sleep disorders.
I think it was Ronald Reagan who said sleep is the great rejuvenator. And so if you're getting healthy sleep, a lot of these symptoms will kind of disappear. So it's so important, and I can share personally that during my first week of treatment, my sleep scores were low. They were like 20, 30, 40. My average sleep scores for the first week were 57. 57.
So the higher the score, the better your sleep.
That is correct on a 0 to 100. The interesting thing is you can see those red and yellow lines, which are not so good in terms of sleep. By the second week already, my sleep scores are all green with one yellow, and my scores jumped from 57 to 81 average.
This sounds too good to be true, and I'm always cautious about that. You mentioned a couple things, but before we get to my primary note regarding, oh, this may have cured my PTSD, which we know doesn't happen.
Right.
If you've been diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder or some other neuropsychiatric illness, you're not going to get cured. You're going to treat the symptoms and mitigate
You're
them.
going to improve.
Improve your life.
Yeah.
All right. So we'll talk about the whole how that interplays with the VA schedule for rating disabilities. But if somebody's out there listening to this right now and they want to get involved, let's say they're a firefighter
Yes.
that has seen some awful things,
Yes.
and his wife is telling him, or his, whoever, somebody's telling him that he's not sleeping well, his performance at work is slid off, he needs to get some help. He can get engaged by doing what? What's he got to do?
They need anyone out there who has these issues that are ongoing. Get online, connect with etmsflorida.com. They will list all the different sites. You'll want to get the one called Satellite Bay. They didn't know it was Satellite Beach, but Melbourne, the Melbourne site. And the way to do that is just to go to etmsflorida.com and hit the sign up button.
Echo Tango Mike Sierra, ETMS.
ETMS. And once you hit that sign up button, it's a small little survey. You fill it out. They will send you some additional surveys to find out what your symptoms are. And once they do that, they will have a peer representative contact you and schedule you for your appointments. They're flexible with their appointments. If you have a work schedule, they can go after work hours. I go in at 9 some days. Some days I go in at 4:30. They're very flexible, and the young technicians there know what they're doing, and they do a great job. A lot of veterans will ask me, does it hurt? Does it hurt? No. The transmagnetic stimulation is a little metal stimulator that's on your forehead, and you'll hear a little click, 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 click for about 6 or 7 seconds, and then there's a 20-second break. They do 36 cycles of those.
In one sitting?
In one sitting, and that takes 14 and a half minutes. And the rest of the time, they'll ask you questions about your sleep, your anxiety, your irritability, things like that, to gather data and gather information. 14 and a half minutes in and out. I mean, really about 30 minutes by the time they ask you the questions. So it's 30 minutes out of your day for 20 work days. And you've gone through the whole process. You get another QEEG
At the end?
at 10 sessions where they make some
Halfway
adjustments
through, okay.
halfway through, and then another one at the end. So these are expensive processes. And, I'm sure some of you out there are wondering, well, how do you measure that sleep stuff? I know sometimes there's watches that measure sleep, but we're not particularly excited about those because they kind of interfere when you wear them at night. So they provide you with a mat that goes under your mattress, and believe it or not, it measures your heart rate, it measures your sleep, it measures your REM sleep, it measures more things than you can imagine.
Personal experience.
And absolutely. And that's a gift to you. You can keep it for the rest of your life and monitor your sleep. The irony is, I really didn't know that I was having a sleep problem. And all of a sudden, I looked at my phone with the app, and it's 22 out of 100. I was having something going on, and I don't anymore.
This is incredible news. ETMS.
ETMS.
Go online, look for the Florida site.
Exactly.
Particularly if you're in Brevard County, you want to look at the Satellite Beach location.
If you're around the country, they're in 23 states. They have one in Israel, Ukraine, and they're working on one in the Philippines and perhaps in Thailand in the future.
Outstanding, because we know we have viewers out there on the West Coast, in upper Midwest, Texas. You heard it here, ETMS. Just come on, Google's a fabulous tool
Absolutely.
now. And Doc, you're fabulous to be able to share this with us and with our audience so they can actually go and get some improvement. On another segment, we'll talk about how it will not, I could say may, but will not impact your VA
Correct.
rating decision. We'll talk about that at another time. But for now, let's let it go with this. Hope you're all going to listen, like, subscribe to American Warrior Radio. Until next time, don't forget, thank a vet.